Alright, welcome to this new episode. In today's lesson, we shall be looking at the music notes and then rest. But first, we need to know first of all what we understand by music notes. From what I can say is that the notes are signs showing by their different shapes the duration or length of sounds, and then rests are signs of various kinds showing periods of silence. Now, what we are meaning here is that when you look at the staff notation critically, there are certain shapes that we always see. You find something like a circle which is open, another one like a dot and a stem on it, and so forth and so on. So all these actually have different shapes and meaning. They show us different durations or length or how long you're supposed to take in saying on those points of how long the sound is. Now, a rest is just something like a silence. Why? But you need to keep quiet. But they also have different shapes, and those different shapes also represent the duration or the length of the silence, or sometimes we can call it even periods. One of the connections between rests and the notes is that there are 7 kinds of rests in use, and they correspond with the 7 notes in their length, meaning different rests will vary on the different length of the note duration. So they take that kind of shape. Perhaps let's look at this. These are some of the 7 common musical notes and their rests. You can see that you can look. This is a note. This is a note. So in that kind of format is also how we also get them. Okay. Let's look at this. This is first a semi-brief, and a semi-brief. This is how the note looks like. It's just like a circle. Whereas the other one, you can see, yeah, a semi-brief is just like a circle in that kind of format. Whereas the other one is just so the longer the note, this is actually one of the longest notes we have, and its rest is that we have here is another one which is a minim. Now you can see the difference between the rest of a semi-brief and a minim. Whereas of a semi-brief, hmm, it points, it is like it's lying from underneath hmm, the line. Whereas for the minim, it is lying on the lower note, on the lower line, or the lower line. So that's the difference between the two. Then the others which we have is a crotchet. This is the most commonly used actually in most of the pieces, and in terms of references, we tend to refer to all these notes in relation to the crotchet. The other one is a quiver. Now you can see here we say that the 2 minims is equivalent to a semi-brief, which means to enable you get this semi-brief, you need to have 2 minims. Hmm? And if at all you need to get this minim, you need to have 2 crochets is equivalent to a minim. Now, if 2 crochets is equivalent to a minim, and yet 2 minims are equivalent to a semi-brief, which means you will need 4 crochets. We shall see how the mathematics come about. Now, a quiver is actually this one. A quiver instead, it has a stem and a flag. Now, this part of the note which is like a line is actually a stem. We call it a stem. Mm. Unlike a minim and a crochet which have on stems in them, the other notes, the quiver, the semi-quiver, the demi-semi-quiver, and the semi-demi-semi-quiver. So this note, they all have stems and different flags. So a quiver has one flag. This is what I'm meaning by a flag. This part which is bending. A semi-quiver has 2 flags. A semi-demi-quiver has 3 flags. When we come to this other one, I was trying to give now an alternative. Let's look at the table below. So this is the table. This time now I placed the notes here, and then I placed rests here. Now, you can recall that in the previous one, I gave, I told you that the rest of the semi-brief is facing up and then the rest of the minim is facing down. So here we can now see it very well that the rest is facing up. It's like, and then the one for the minim is facing down. Now, then we have now the quarter notes and this quarter note. Now, this is where now mathematics comes in. Hmm. We are told there's a quarter note, what. So let me try to pick perhaps, imagine this is a quarter, 1 out of 4, okay? So that's a quarter. A whole note is like 1. So if a whole note is 1, which means a minim is a half of a whole note. And that's why we shall know where to apply these fractions from. And then the quarter note, which means we'll take the format, it will take in this quarter note. And then a quiver, since this is a half. Now, this is like saying a half times a half will give us a quarter. Now, everything now we have to tend to multiply times 2 times 2 times 2. So if that is a quarter, we always actually multiply times a half. To get the eighth note, we now multiply times again another half from a quarter. So it is from this one that we multiply times a quarter. So, and we remember that when we are multiplying hmm, with the not a quarter, but we multiply times a half. So a half times a half gives 1 out of 4. So if you have 1 out of 4, and yet this is our 1 out of 4. So which means to get this, we shall need 1 out of 4 times a half, which gives us 1 out of 8. Now, this applies to all of them. Now, if that is a 8, which means to get a semi-quiver, we already know that a quiver is a 8. We also multiply it times a half. And the 8 times 2 actually gives us 16. So, which means this is a 16th, 1 out of 16 note, and so forth and so forth. So, it's just a matter of you now bringing this into here and then multiply the half a half. That is how they get this name, 64th note rest. So you can get, this is the 64th note rest and this is the 64th note. The 32nd note rest, this is the 32nd note, and so forth and so on. So I hope, so let's move on. Now, this is now a breakdown of the other one, much as it is incomplete. Now, let's consider the breakdown of the notes from the semi-brief at the top to a semi-quiver at the bottom. Now, this is what I was saying. You need 2 minims to give you a semi-brief. Now, if you need 2 minims to give you a semi-brief, and yet 1 minim, you need the 2 crochets to give you 1 minim, which means you will now have to add this plus this plus this plus this, which is 4. So you need 4 of these crochets to give you a semi-brief, and you need 8 quavers to give you 1 semi-brief, and you need 16 semi-quavers to give you 1 semi-brief until you go down. Remember, this is like a breakdown. You need 2 minutes to give you 1 semi-brief, which means you need 2 crochets to give you a minim. You need 2 quavers to give you 1 crochet. You need 2 semi-quavers to give you one what? To give you 1 quiver. And you need 2 semi-demi quiver to give you 1 semi-quiver. A semibreve is what? 4 beats. Here, let's take note of this. At this point, this is what I'm trying to emphasize on. Because everything, most of the things that we shall be studying in music will be related to a crotchet. Hmm? So that means if we are going to relate most of the things to a crotchet, we assume now a crotchet is 1 beat. If you need 4 crochets to make a semibreve, which means there are 4 beats in a semibreve, there are 2 beats in a minim. You remember when I was trying to break on that? We are looking at them in terms of crochets. So there are 4 crochets in it, in a semibreve. There are 2 crochets in a minim, and there is only 1 crochet which is equivalent to 1 beat. You need over 2 of quavers to make 1 crochet. You need 4 quavers. Remember, this is a quarter, and so which means you will need the 4 quarters to give you only 1 beat. You will need 8 semi-demi quavers, demi-semi quavers to give you 1 crochet. You will need a 16 hemi-demi semi quavers to give you that 1 crochet. For example, this. And so forth and so forth. And that is how the speed goes about. I would like to end here by me saying thank you for watching and enjoy your music classes.